Hi everyone, and welcome to another one of our live Q&As. I'm thrilled this morning to be joined by Jessica Hannah. Hi Jessica.
Hello.
So Jessica and I met about, I'm like, this is scary to admit, probably about 15 or 16 years ago now, when I was riding a lady's horses throughout university, and Jessica also came to ride some of those horses, and you were at school and I was at uni. And now Jessica's just finishing her masters, and I'm doing what I'm doing. Jessica, tell us a little bit about yourself and a bit about the journey that you've been on and the learning that you've done to bring you to where you are today.
So I've always been keen on horses, and I decided to follow the academic route of my journey with horses. So I studied a BSc in equine science, and I've just finished my MSc in equitation science because I think it's quite important to be quite ethical when you do stuff with horses. And it was actually whilst I was at uni that I got my first horse, and I actually bought him with my student loan because I really wanted my own horse. And now I'm a yard manager of ex-performance horses. So that's interesting, making them safe for novices. Yeah.
So tell us then what it was that meant that you went down the academic route with horses rather than the becoming a rider or a groom. What was it that meant you were interested in that element of
it? So I worked on a yard whilst I was at sixth form, and it was just taking people out on like Western treks. And in the nicest possible way, I knew I could do more with horses. So I wanted to push myself and see if, I can get to the top level, sort of working with horses and being able to run stuff how I would like, because it's difficult when you work at a yard and they do stuff that you don't necessarily agree with. And where I didn't necessarily know much about horses, I was just keen to learn about them. And especially in sixth form, when you get pressured to go to uni, initially I signed up to do criminology, and 2 weeks before the university deadline, I said, nope, I want to go to a agricultural uni and study horses, which was a big palaver, but we got there, and I'm so glad I decided to go down the horse route.
And I love that. I love the fact that this is what I keep talking about at the moment, this knowing, this thing inside you that knows what's really right for you, what it is, what it's really about for you, whether it's right or whether it's wrong. This little voice that we are so good at not listening to that goes, no, you don't want to do that, do you? Everyone else says you want to do that, but you don't really want to do that. And it's so lovely to hear that actually you did listen to that voice and you went, this might be a really tough decision, and it might not be the easiest journey, and it may not be what everyone else wants me to do, but actually I want to go and study equine studies. Like, that's what I want to do. And I think it's amazing to do, because clearly it's your passion. I mean, you've gone on to your masters, so you must have loved it. Yeah. And what is it that you enjoy about your masters, and having done the academic side of things, what have you really enjoyed?
I think the main thing has just been learning about all the different methods and, like, say, practices, because I've certainly learned that you can pick and choose what you like from different methods and practices. And say when you do training with horses, it's not one method for being able to just learn how individual like a horse can be, and obviously having all this knowledge where in essence I can do a tailor-made plan for a horse. And I can see that, say, with my work horses and with my own horse, how, doing like tailor-made packages essentially for your horse that suits that horse. And yeah, it's just been really, really fun trying to figure out the best practice for horses, really.
And I think that's so key, isn't it, that there isn't one size fits all. I mean, horses for courses is so true, isn't it, that actually they have individual needs just like humans. Not everyone wants to wear the same clothes, live in the same place, do the same thing, and it's the same with horses. Literally, sometimes not everyone wants to wear the same rug, but so I think this idea that if everyone could embrace this idea of just learning loads of different stuff and then picking the bits that you need for that horse out of that wealth of knowledge is just so key, isn't it, to having the best, happiest, most successful partnership.
Yeah.
Cool. And so tell us then a little bit about this concept of equine ethology. Ethology, that's the right way of saying it, is it? What is equine ethology? Sounds like mythology, doesn't it?
Well, it's like scary science word, like, oh. But the definition of it is the study of horses in a free-ranging context. So a lot of ethological studies are based on wild horses, but as most people know, we don't necessarily own wild horses, but I don't think it's spoken about enough what influences the modern domestic horse, because we put horses in situations that, say if they were free roaming, they would never ever be in a stable. They would never ever be in like a fenced off paddock. So we do a lot of stuff that will impact like the horse's behaviour, their biology. The influences, but there's just so much. And once you start thinking about it, you kind of are able to see in your own methods what you need to do to make your horse a bit happier. So I like to talk about how to make a happy horse, because that's just something everyone can understand, really.
And this concept then, you know, the one of the things that gets bandied around is this word natural horsemanship, isn't it? And I just think, what a load of nonsense. Nothing we do is natural with horses. Natural horsemanship is watching them in a herd, of which around the world there are very few truly natural herds of horses, actually, are there? Because even where we see herds in the wild, they're still not actually wild. Like, you know, for instance, New Forest ponies they're not still wild. They're still herded in, they're still looked after in some way. They're not truly wild. They're also kind of kept within a certain area. They're not truly free roaming either. But anyway, so the concept of natural horsemanship, so there isn't any. It's just, to me, it's horsemanship, right? It's about looking after, exactly what you say, your happy horse. Now, people have just heard you say, oh, it's about the study of horses in the wild, it's about the study of horses free roaming, that kind of thing. And they go, well, that's nonsense, just like you said, because we don't keep them that way. So how is it that studying horses in an environment that we don't in any way keep them can help us to keep them in stabling and paddocks and riding, which isn't natural anyway, asking their bodies to do things that actually wouldn't normally happen, and still have a happy athlete, still have a happy horse and a happy partnership as well? How on earth do you bring that in?
So say with horses, and say trying to make a happy horse, the horse hasn't actually changed over thousands of years. Their digestive system is still the same. And obviously in recent years, you've definitely heard people say you need to trickle feeders, you need to give them X amount of hay. And obviously more studies have come out, say the impact of like using hay nets on the neck, and obviously people saying feeding from the floor is the best way. And obviously the main thing with horses that we all know is they can spook. So they've still got that fight flight instinct. And where a horse is so big, if you don't respect that, you're going to put yourself in such a dangerous situation. And say when a horse does bolt and you do become detached from a horse, it is actually quite scary for some horses when they lose their rider. Whereas obviously some horses don't mind and they start eating, but some horses will just run and try and run home. So that's, I think the issue with like natural horsemanship is it sounds great, but when you really look into it, it doesn't respect the natural processes of a horse.
Cool. Okay. So there's obviously husbandry things, like the way we care for a horse and things like that. But then there's also the training element as well, isn't there? Of how we need to almost think like a horse to really help to train them. So tell us a little bit more about your experience of that. And I think you said you had 8 points or something, or maybe that wasn't to do with training, but you've got points that you kind of use as your keystones to what you do.
Yeah. So if the first point is, say, like the learning processes and ability of a horse. So at the moment, we've had I think he's 3-month-old foal now, and he's a big colt. He's big for 3 months, but where he is a foal, I can't overdo his handling training or anything because he's a foal. He doesn't necessarily understand. So you've got to break that down and be respectful to the foal. And it's same with like older horses, and say like training a Grand Prix horse, that takes minimum of 5 years. So horses do learn slowly, and it's little and often that you need to do, and obviously just be patient. And I think that's the biggest thing that people don't have with horses is patience. Everyone wants a quick fix, and you can't really do that with horses, I'm afraid.
And you can see why, you know, a lot of leisure riders, I mean, yes, obviously there are professionals out there that want a quick fix, but that's normally because they need to turn around a buck, you know, they need the money and things like that. But a lot of leisure riders, you know, spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy earning the money to spend on these creatures that we adore, we're passionate.
Yeah.
And then we want to kind of get the recognition, the reward, the achievement, the progress from that. So it's really common in the leisure industry to want a quick fix. And if there's a product or a bit or a saddle or a piece of tack or a training method or something that will get us there quicker, then people are well up for it, aren't they? Because actually that's what they're striving for. What have you noticed about that kind of mindset within equines and within, you know, training and what you've been studying?
Yeah. So say when you get these horsemen that come to town and they're looking for horses to use in their demonstrations, and you think, wow, this like guy's amazing, he's managed to get this horse that doesn't load like into the trailer. And there's this one girl I know, she's got like the cutest little dun New Forest pony, but she went to one of these demonstrations, and granted he got the horse in the trailer, but the consequences and the impact afterwards, the horse will not load. And this, bless this girl, but apparently she has quite a traumatic time trying to load this horse now. And it's just sad how these techniques get marketed and people want to believe them because everything starts with good intentions. They think they're doing the best for the horse, but they're not. And say one of the other influences on training is the human's knowledge and skills. And if you don't have like the knowledge to spot, say, horse's stress response, then how are you going to know you're not doing the right thing for your horse?
Yeah, which brings us nicely onto something that we were having a little bit of a chat about earlier. So all those years back when we first met, it's a little bit cringy and embarrassing when you think about how little we knew back then. I mean, of course we didn't. That was like 15, 16 years ago. Of course we're not going to know as much back then as we did now. We've had all that time to learn it. But when we think about some of the things we were doing, some of the training methods we were involved in, some of the things we've been told to do, all that kind of thing, it's very often your knowledge and your skills is influenced by the access to the information you've got around you and the people you've got around you, and, you know, that as well. And we were having a great chat about who influences you and how that works. Tell us about your experiences of exactly what you said. You only know what you know with the knowledge and skills you've got at the time, and the people around you and the beliefs around you and all these things. Tell us a little bit about that, because I just love hearing this.
So say when I was younger, I loaned this 13-hand pony called Henry. And at the time when I started loaning him, he was like 21, 22. And just thinking the stuff I used to do with him, obviously thinking I was some pro jumper, let me put some jump poles up. And I definitely didn't know about strides, but, you know, you would just put a couple of poles out, hope for the best. And it's just funny as you get older, and say when you realise how some horses aren't quite tolerant when you're just flapping about kicking them. But no, it is. I just laugh at what I used to do with horses, especially when I was a kid. Like just thinking it was okay just to jump on the horse bareback, and obviously dressing Henry up in God knows what. But he was good as gold, bless him. So.
And a lot of that, though, is the influence of the people around us as well, isn't it? Because there's probably nothing wrong in sort of doing some of that stuff. You certainly weren't harming him. I remember Henry's gorgeous. Yeah. But the people that we're surrounded by, and the yards that we're on, and the knowledge that they've got, and sometimes their ability to push that knowledge upon us, even if we, you know, that knowing we were talking about, we think that's not quite right for us. So, you know, how you should rug them, how you should care for them, what you should feed them on, which supplement they should be, and whether your tack's right or not, you know, this kind of stuff, this yard culture. We were talking earlier about how that really can affect the way you keep your horse. What in your opinion is the effects of yard culture on horse husbandry and things like that as well?
So one of the, depending what yard you're on, you could be on a yard, say, where all the horses are rugged at night. And especially for me, I was on a yard where I have a little Irish cob. And I mean, he never wears a rug because he doesn't need to. He's quite happy. He's still fat during the winter. So I always felt pressured to put a rug on him. And thankfully, he would destroy these stable rugs. So I just said to people, I don't bother rugging him because he just destroys the rugs. But the real reason was because I didn't want to rug my horse, but I felt pressured to, especially when people are like, oh, you should clip your horse. And it's like, but I don't need to clip my horse. He's happy how he is. And say during the winter, when I do go riding, it's not like I'm bombing him across the forest. He's not getting particularly sweaty. So I think if you do like have a native horse, you should be respectful of the rugs they do wear, because as humans, we feel the cold a lot more than a horse does. And I believe it's between 0 and 25 degrees is the horse's optimal temperature. And especially during the spring, when, you know, you get those couple of sunny days and you think you can get away leaving like your medium weight rug on the horse. But and then you get to the horse and you're just there like, oh my goodness, you've sweated so much. And the horse is made to store fat. And especially this time of year, that's when, going back to say like the horse's biological processes, it is normal for a horse to put on more weight, drop the weight, put on the weight again, and drop the weight. So it's just being mindful of, say, what the horse's body processes are. And then say on some yards, obviously some yards only bed on straw, and that's for cost-wise. But say if you have a horse, even if you spray all kinds of stuff on the straw, he still eats the straw. I don't want to be on a yard that I have to use straw, kind of thing. So it's just finding a yard that is suitable for you and your horse, but that is easier said than done. And I think that's why people do put up being pressured into practices they don't necessarily want to do, because it is kind of difficult to find a yard that suits you and your horse perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. I've always said it's easier to buy a house than it is to find a yard. And in fact, when we moved up to Surrey from Dorset, which is where you and I met, when we moved up to Surrey, we found the yard first and then found a house near it. Because actually didn't know the area. It was far harder to find a good yard than it was a house. Well, in that point, it was a flat that we were renting. But yeah, okay. So we've had 2 of your points, I think, 2 of your 8 points, which are learning process and ability, human knowledge and skills. What are some of the other points then that your kind of principal things?
So horses' temperament. I think this is a big one that is overlooked a lot. Because each horse has a different temperament, each horse has a different tolerance threshold, and it's so easy. For example, there's this group online, and obviously people have given nicknames to what a chestnut naughty horse is called and what a patchy naughty horse is called. So obviously we take the mick out of like horses being naughty, but if we get down to it, and if you ask an owner, what is your horse's temperament like? And they've had that horse for a significant time, they'll be able to give you a detailed description of what their horse's temperament is like, because they know what it is. And I think that's like a problem when horses do get sent away, is owners aren't necessarily honest about like the horse's temperament and how it could be during the training.
Okay, cool. So, and this is always an interesting one, isn't it? Temperament and personality in a horse. How do we distinguish between temperament and anthropomorphism, which is thinking of them like humans and saying, oh, you know, there's definitely some emotions horses can feel. I think that jealousy is perhaps not the right word, but I definitely think that they will resource guard, which can look like jealousy. They definitely can tell us when they want us to bog off and things like that, but they don't have the logical reasoning of you know, oh, I think I'm going to be an arse today because I don't like you, you know, like that's where it draws the line. So tell us about your your understanding and from your expertise, I mean, I'm just talking about what I've spoken to lots of people about over the years, of the difference between anthropomorphizing and giving them human characteristics and actual temperament and personality in a horse.
Yeah. So where to begin? So when bear with me, let me just think of my response. So when we talk about like a horse's temperament, it will be, say, its willingness to like try. And then the problem with anthropomorphism is it can be a great way to get, say, leisure horse riders who don't necessarily know science lingo to understand the point we're trying to make. And this is why I say using the happy horse, the influences on a happy horse, can help explain to someone who doesn't have a lot of knowledge and skills what the horse like will be feeling. But there are science studies that have said horses are sentient, so they do feel like emotions, and obviously they know when we're happy, when we're angry, when we're fearful. And say horses reasoning, if a horse put 2 and 2 together, say when we put a bit in its mouth, and if it put 2 and 2 together that the rider is causing pain through like the bit, then they would stop us riding them. So I don't think horses have a lot of reasoning in that sense, and it's just more we try and explain horses' behaviour in a way that makes sense to us. But realistically, horses can only be a few ways because it's a horse. It's not a person, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And just be careful. I think you're knocking your mic or something sometimes and making a bit of noise. I'm not sure what it is that you're knocking occasionally, but it's so good. I really want to hear what you're saying. And then every now and again we just get it knocked, but that's okay. Cool. Right. So we've got learning process and ability, human knowledge and skills, temperament. What is another one then? That we're 3 out of 8 so far.
The horse. And I think it's so easy when you see a gorgeous horse and you're just like, I want it. Really, it's not suitable as a happy hacker. Yeah, all people do is pretty hair. Its hocks aren't made for jumping. So it's quite important to think when you get a horse is
Oh, we're just losing you a little bit here, Hannah. Jessica, I don't know if viewers are losing you a little bit as well, but you've now frozen. So I will fill in for a moment. Unfortunately, I couldn't actually hear what you were saying there, Jess. So hopefully you can hear me. We've had someone come in and comment. I think, are you back now? I think you're back now. Can you hear me all right? Have you been able to hear me the whole way along?
And then I suppose another point would be equine health and soundness.
Oh, we're having fun. I think you're back now. Are you back? I don't know. I think you're behind me. Oh, you've got to love technology, haven't you? She's frozen. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I can see. 2 seconds. Hello. Are you back now? I keep seeing you moving and then disappearing again. Hopefully we will get Jess back in just a minute. So let's recap then on the points that Jess has made so far, which is that there are 8 things you have to consider to have a happy horse. Oh, she's come back in again. Look at that.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Are you back now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, just about. I was just recapping for people. Oh, you're frozen again. Oh, this is not good. It's trying its hardest. You've got to love the internet, haven't you? Technology is a wonderful thing when it just does what it's meant to do. Just like horses, actually. Yeah. And you've got to be able to deal with the unpredictability of it. You're sort of coming back, but not really. You keep freezing. Okay. So I will just recap. We've also had a question come through that I will ask in just a minute. But so to recap then, so I think three of the 8 things that we have to consider with a happy horse are the learning processes that they have and they use, and their ability. And that's an interesting one in itself. That there's a whole discussion on its own. What is ability? What is talent? What is trainable? Human knowledge and skills. So what knowledge has that human got? What skills has that human got? What can they learn? What's going to be difficult? What's going to be better? I think Jessica might be back now. And then temperament. So the horse's temperament and personality, I suppose, comes into that as well. So Jess, you're sort of half-ish back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. See you.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, fingers crossed. Let's see if this is going to work properly. Okay, what we may need to log out of this broadcast and just possibly start again, but I'm trying not to do that because I'm not entirely sure how it will work if we do. Okay, so you were just telling us about point 4. Let's see if this will work. I didn't hear anything about point 4, unfortunately, because it had frozen. So tell us about your 4th point, which I didn't hear any of, so I can't even give you any clue as to which one it was.
What is temperament? Or
no, we got temperament. So the next one on from temperament.
equine health and soundness.
That sounds a good one. Let's go for that then.
So horses are very good at trying to hide. Have pieces of knowledge, so you know what to kind of look out for, or if the horse is in pain, then you know what to look out for. And plus, like a horse, for because later we'll discuss the success in training, and one of the things you can do is the horse is healthy, so you can have a trained, because if the horse is healthy, you can be trying to do any behavior because he is in pain. You're having behavioural cues to do that, like that can be contributing to this behaviour.
I think we've lost Jess again. Okay. Oh, gotta love technology. Okay. We will do what we can do, and hopefully Jess can come back in. I think it might be her internet connection that's not playing ball today. But she was talking about the fact that horses are very good at hiding if there's an issue, because obviously if they were the back of the herd and there was an issue, they'd get picked off at the back, and that's a dangerous place to be. So they are going to behave differently. If they aren't happy, they will behave very differently to when they are, because they don't want to be kicked off at the back of the herd. So hopefully while Jess is coming back, if you've got any questions, now is a perfect time to put them in. We'll ask them to her in a bit. And any thoughts that you might have about this. So we're halfway through our 8 points to a happy horse. And hopefully, you know, some of the key things that are definitely coming through in this is that you've only got the knowledge that you've got at that point in time. And sometimes you can have the knowledge, but still think something's not quite right, not right for your horse, or you've just got this knowing. We can call it intuition. I call it unconscious competence as well, which is like there is some knowledge in there, but it's like buried deep down that's kind of just saying, oh, you know, you kind of need to listen to this, not necessarily for any logical reason, but you do need to. And it's really important with our horses that we do listen to that. And unfortunately, what happens is we very often turn it off. And we turn it off because of our situation or the people around us, or the practicalities of something mean that we can't in that moment do it. But the problem is it will just start shouting louder, and we'll end up with issues later on down the line, either in our horse or in ourselves or in our partnership between the two of us or with other people or whatever it is, because we know deep down that it's not right. That might be a behavioural thing. It might be a health and well-being thing. It might be a husbandry thing, a way that they're looked after or kept, a management thing. It might be a training thing as well. And that often we really need to listen to this inner knowing that something's not quite right, because it's that stuff that really guides us on what our horses need and what we need, because we ultimately know what is right for them, ultimately, with the knowledge that we've got at the time. And sometimes actually what you need to do, you might know that something's not quite right, but you can't quite put your finger on it. And it might be that you need to go and do some learning. You need to go and learn some more. You need to ask people, and not just the people you're asking at the moment. Go and learn more from more people, which is the reason why I do these Q&As, so that everyone gets an opportunity to hear more and learn more from experts in a particular field. And by doing that, that might just give you the bit of information that you were missing, that you then need to input or use or do differently. And just waiting, hopefully Jess is going to reconnect in a minute. I did see her connect, but it didn't work and disappear again, so hopefully she's on her way. So have a look at the yard that you're on, the group that you're in, the trainers that you use, the way that you do things, and just notice, is there any element where you just think, not sure that's quite right, or it's not, doesn't seem right for my horse, or it's not the best thing, and are you just sticking with it because at the moment you don't see any alternative, or someone's telling you that that's the way it is and you're thinking, I'm not sure that that is entirely right? Are you using methods that just don't feel right to you, or you're really not getting anywhere with your horse even though you keep trying? Because the definition of madness is keep trying the same thing and expecting a different result. Is it that you need to go and learn some more information, get some more knowledge? Is it that you need to get someone in to help you out? Is it that actually the yard that you're on or the situation you're in needs to change somehow? And they're not easy decisions. They're very often difficult decisions to make, because, you know, finding a good yard is a difficult thing. But ultimately, and I can tell you this because I've been through this so many times, where I have known it's not right and I've sat with it for a while and it's been a problem. And then when I've actually managed to make that change, it's been absolutely brilliant. So hopefully Jess is now back. Are you back, Jess? Fingers crossed you are. I can see you, if I can't hear you again. It's frozen again. Oh, we're not doing so well with this morning, are we? Okay, it's not really doing its thing. So I'd suggest what we're going to do is Jess and I will, yeah, she's streaming through there, look. We will rearrange this Q&A. Because it's so good and I really want to hear what she's got to say. And unless she can manage to pop back in the next 30 seconds. Oh, this. Okay, cool. Can we see you? Can we hear you? You've sort of frozen again.
Yeah.
Oh,
no.
Yes, no.
I can see you.
Yeah, you come through like a robot to us, unfortunately. I think it's your internet.
I think it is my internet because we're in the middle of the forest.
Do you live in the New Forest?
Yeah.
Oh, gorgeous. Oh, jealous. Okay. Just talk to me for a moment and let's see if it actually comes through properly.
I don't.
No, it's not.
No.
Oh, it's roboting you. Ah, how annoying. Okay, look, I'll tell you what, we will reschedule this because I really want to hear what you've got to say, and I'll let the viewers know when we're going to reschedule it to. And we will find a way of doing this where your internet is going to be helpful, because it was fine for the first bit and then it decided not to be. No, I can't hear you. I can hear you're speaking, but I can't hear what you're saying. I'm really sorry. And what we will do is I will launch this video for people to see the beginning and hear what they've got to say and things, but we will reschedule this because it's so good. I really want to hear the next 4 points, but unfortunately it's just not playing ball. So sorry everyone, gotta love a bit of technology fun. We will do what we can. Jess and I will rearrange this and we will find a way of doing it where her internet is going to help us out. So thanks so much everyone for showing up this morning. It will give you a chance to think of any questions, and it will give you a chance to ask any input or anything for the next one, and Jess and I will do another one, which you can join into, because we've got some questions that have come through as well. So thank you so much, Jess, for doing your absolute best to make it happen. You've got to love the internet. And we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.